But I guess a good place to start with everything is around values. What is the definition of values for you? And it's spoken about a lot in personal development and different communities like that. But how do you differentiate what values are? Like, what's the definition at the core of values?
Okay, so if you look at the definitions of values on Google, for example, or in all dictionaries, at the core, values are
Mm.
just words, okay? And they are abstract words, okay? Like, is nothing palpable there, is nothing visible there. And if you take respect, for example, right, it's a commonly used value, all over, all around the globe, it doesn't matter the culture of the person who's using this value, their upbringing, but this word can mean something for a person and something else for another person. And what we usually do not do, is ask what is their understanding of this word. So respect is a very important value. For example, everyone would like to feel respected. Okay. Everyone wants to feel respected and they want to believe that they are respectful. Okay. But you come across cultures where, for example, raising the voice, to make a point and trying to sort of force the other person to stay in the dialogue, okay, and to reach a consent or something. So raising the voice is it's considered respectful in that culture, but not respectful at all in other cultures. So I'll give you an example that has been given by, I don't know, I came across on internet, and I thought it was quite a good example. So the husband and the wife, they were sitting at the table, right? And they were in a sort of dialogue which transformed in an argument, okay? And he raised his voice. And that moment, she stood up and she left, okay? She did that because she felt disrespected. But the husband felt deeply disrespected for the fact that she stood up and left. Later on, they shared their understanding of this word, which was coming from their family values, So the woman said, look, my father said that, if somebody raises their voice, you just stand up and go. That is a sign of self-respect for you. And you show your disrespect for that person's behavior, raising the voice, while the men said, look, I've been told that if somebody just get up and goes and leaves you there, without a response, that is disrespectful. So what I want to say is that it's very important to define these values, so at the end, the definition of the value stays in the behavior and our understanding of that abstract word.
Yeah, it's interesting, and perhaps we can give some examples of good values and bad values. I mean, I'm just going to throw one out there. You see on most businesses' websites, they say integrity. What's another one? Integrity, honesty. All these kind of words, and
Yeah.
it's to a point where it's used so much that you're like, does this even mean anything anymore? So I guess that's an example of maybe an incorrect way to use values. So if you don't mind, just for myself and for the audience, I guess, defining what, or rather giving definitions or examples, examples of what values are, using personal and both professional examples, like maybe by words.
Okay. Yes, and that is a mistake that many companies do. They think, oh my God, we do not have values. Let's establish the values. And they proudly display them on their website.
Yeah.
But then you might go to deal with that company and you see that they do not live by those values because they fail to implement them. And again, it's such it's quite a complex process. Again, because now we are, in many workplaces, there are people from so many nationalities and cultures. And as you could see, they have a totally different understanding of that particular word. So integrity is basically a very complex value, okay, and is, of course, desirable in organization. Now, there are internal values and external values in an organization, okay? And that means that inside the way people communicate with each other, colleagues, and the way they do their work, you know, they want to see integrity. And of course, there are outside values, the way we treat our clients with integrity. You know, it's a little bit of different story. So, as I said, integrity is a desirable value because it's composed of, you can layer it down, you know, it's there are many other values that go into the integrity. Okay, so you can think, what does that mean to deal with integrity, to act with integrity in something? And that is, you've been honest, okay, in your dealings, whatever that was. People can trust you. Okay, so that is integrity. You do not raise your voice. I'm just kidding. Okay, so consistency. There is also compassion, okay, that goes in integrity. And as a matter of fact, I was thinking about yesterday, and now I step out a little bit of the workplace organizational setting. Yesterday on my walk, I came across a park, and where there was a playground, and there was a flying fox. And I thought, I like to go on that flying fox, you know, but the thing that you have to pull, you know, on which you sit, it was at the other end. And I just went at that end, and I found a pair of shoes. There was a pair of shoes there, and they were good shoes. It looked like they were boy shoes, I would say, not a man, boy, school boy probably. No one was around, and I thought, wow, how could they forget their shoes? And what was interesting was that the shoes were still there. Okay, so nobody took the shoes. Okay, and I was thinking, how do you put integrity to this? You know, that people have integrity, so they do not harm other people. Okay, they don't do things that involve I don't know, harming, or they would be disrespectful or something. Compassion is so important to come into the equation, because if you apply empathy and compassion, you bring it in integrity, then is that thought that goes, you know, to the person, to the other person, okay, thinking, you know, maybe they come back to find their shoes, and who knows, maybe, you know, it's quite, if there are the school shoes, then they have lost an important thing, they will come back. So I think integrity brings in, you know, a lot of other values. It's like a bag full of values. You can't really act with integrity if you do not have compassion as well. Okay, so as you can see, it's one word, but it's a world in this word. Okay, it's a set of behaviors, it's a set of things that I'm lost. See, my mind is going in so many places. But if you think at integrity, I think the most important things are honesty, trustworthiness, okay, and consistency in behavior. You can't act with integrity here and not act with integrity there, okay? You either embrace integrity in all aspects of your life, or you don't. You can't say that integrity is your value.
So values have to lead to behaviors. You can't have a value is not a value unless it manifests itself as a behavior.
Absolutely. Yeah. It is like that. It's either behavior or it guides your thinking. Right. So when you think of ethical decision making and moral dilemmas, navigating moral dilemmas, the values, they play a very important role in that. Basically, they are the core of both ethics and morals, because they are, the values is what is guiding you through navigating ethical and moral dilemmas.
Wow. So, okay, this is really important because when we were speaking a few weeks ago, we were chatting about, what to talk about and kind of talking points and et cetera, et cetera. And one of the things you mentioned was around this value piece, and the issue that, this is my interpretation of, and tell me if I'm right here, is that the issue that we commonly have when it comes to moral dilemmas, and I'll give an example of a moral dilemma relevant to me. So in sales, right? Especially in the startup world. I mean, I can only speak to that because I was in startups for so long. It's very easy and perhaps encouraged by people and by staff and by, just by the business to, tell maybe 80% truth and then 20% lie. I don't mean overall as far as a quantity, I mean specific to the individual, the sale, right? And actually, just yesterday, I had someone who, or a few days ago, I was applying for something. I'll keep it very vague because I don't want to, this person to feel bad about it and see this. But they were saying that if I said one thing, then I could get away with doing something, and it was a professional organization. It was for an application on something, and he mentioned, if this goes wrong, you can just say this in the future and you'll be fine. I said, that's not honest, is it? And he goes, no, it's not. I'm like, okay, well, I'm not going to say that then, right? So I'm giving examples here of what I see to be as immoral or unethical behavior, right? There's either the truth or not the truth. There's not like, well, you know what? I just had to say that. I had to say it in a certain way to get away with,
Yes.
whatever it is. I
Murder.
need to, yeah,
Yeah.
right. So I guess, so one of the things we're speaking about is how values are I don't know if you call them commandments, but they're the things
The
that you go
guiding
by,
forces.
guiding forces. So I guess the statement would be that one can't be moral or ethical unless they know what they're being moral or ethical to, which would be then someone's values. Would that be the correct way of putting it together?
Yeah. So the way you responded is admirable. Okay. It's you obviously embraced honesty and authenticity. Most probably, there would be two of your core values that wouldn't let you do that. Okay. So we do have this moral compass that is composed of this, and in both ethical and moral dilemmas, this is what is guiding us, our moral compass. Does this answer your question?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So it's very important to become aware. So I think self-awareness is so important, and you achieve that through self-reflection. When you make mistakes, for example, you fail something, or you unintentionally hurt someone, okay, and you reflect on that. That is the time when you start understanding what is that is important to you. And if you, for example, if honesty is one of your core value, and the dilemma comes into equation, you call it a dilemma where two important values are conflicting. Okay. If you were, for example, in a very bad financial situation and you would have no choice by, going ahead with that, because otherwise it would be a financial disaster. Okay. You can't pay rent. You can't do that. So that is part of the security, which is a very important need, is one of our fundamental needs. Okay. You look at that and it has to do with survival. You look then at truth, at honesty. Okay. these are of higher rank needs, you know, a need and values. Okay, so that is a moral dilemma. Okay, what is more important for me? Am I compromising my honesty and trustworthiness and do this because I'm in a terrible financial situation? Or you choose to you know, to think, no, I'm not going to compromise this. These are two important values of mine, you know, two of my core values. And no matter what, they are non-negotiable. And I will be able probably to find different strategy to satisfy the need for my financial stability. Yeah. But that happens only when you know, when you become aware of your values. Because many people go through life without stopping for a second to understand, what am I made of? Who is me? I think that your values, they are the answer to the fundamental question, who are you? Okay. Many times I thought of that because it's it can be quite confusing, you know, if you ask me, hey, who are you? And I would say, I'm Camelia. Okay. If I ask you, who are you? What do you say?
I'm Luke.
You're Luke. But that is just your name. And this is just my name, you know, something that people would recognize me by. But in substance, I believe that we are our values. Okay. When I choose the values for myself and I realize, looking back in life, that actually these values have been there all along. They guided me through things in life. I chose that over that, you know. It's so refreshing when you put them on the paper. You see them there. This is who I am. I am integrity. I am compassion. I am connection. I am authenticity. Okay, this is what I'm made of. And when you are dealing with me, this is what you get. Yeah, so they are at the core of all the choices that we make. Okay, and not to talk about, not to mention decisions, you know, choices we make all the time. What am I going to eat for breakfast? What socks am I going to wear today, or what tie, or all sorts of things. So we make about what, 30,000 around that choices a day. Okay, simple choices. But then when we are confronted with a decision, is when your critical thinking get into play. Okay, and if you do not have the core values with you, or you are not aware of your core values, you might not reach the best solution, the best decision. And the risk to that, I mean, there are so many risks, you know, it could be an immediate risk. In long term, you might experience regrets. And experiencing regret is a very, what I call expensive emotion, along with others, with shame, with grief. Yeah, so it's so important, you know, that we become aware of our values and see them in play, see them, how they guide us in our decision, including how to make friends, how to choose a partner. You know, these are already, we are in the realm of decisions. Okay. If you meet a person and you fall in love, for example, okay, and you might soon find that actually there is a mismatch in values. You don't know, you can't say that, oh, our values do not match. You experience emotions.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so thank you for talking about the values, because this is such an important topic.
Yeah, and to expand that a bit more, when someone, because no one's perfect, right? And perhaps that's a rationalization people tell themselves to stray the narrow path, so to speak. But when someone does break their values, or they get that feeling, because it's also intuitive in the sense that, why do I feel bad for this, or why do I feel like I've done the wrong thing here? And at its core that you've broken either a humanistic fundamental value or your own
Mm,
values. What does someone do who, when they break their values or they break what they've done? Obviously,
mhm.
I mean, I don't want to get too religious here, but a religious person say you need to repent and ask forgiveness, kind of thing. But what is your opinion on that? What does one do when they have, say, a value to be honest or to be compassionate, and they then do the complete opposite of that? How does one navigate that, and what's the, I guess, protocol
Mm.
for that, so to speak?
Well, when you talk about protocol, it doesn't really match humans, because
I know.
one of the most fascinating things about us is our uniqueness.
Hmm.
We are so many, and yet there are not two people alike. Okay. Quite rare it happens that twins might have similar. There are great similarities in everything that they are and they do. Regarding when one of the core values is challenged, okay, in our lives, the first indication is emotion. Okay, you feel in a certain way, you experience a negative emotion if one of your values has been challenged. Okay. So this is to establish the importance of emotions, because they are not just something to be dismissed. It doesn't go with a glass of water or a bottle of wine or something like that. They are messengers for us. They tell us that one of our values has been challenged. When you feel bad after you did something, you might have lied to someone, or you might have not chosen not to tell the entire truth to protect their feelings. um, so that is an opportunity, actually, to understand, the values. So going further into questioning, which value of mine has been challenged here? Okay. And you think truth. Okay. Oh, truth is one of my core values. Okay. If I feel like this because I have crossed the boundaries and I might have told a lie, and the person I lied to left the scene, okay, what do you do then? Of course, you have opportunities to repair. And that is never too late. Okay. It doesn't matter. There are so many parents that as they become, older and maybe wiser and more comfortable with life in general, they might reflect back and think, oh my gosh, I did this when I was younger to my son. I might have crushed his dreams or something, or did I do that? So it's never too late to do repairs, patches, write a letter, make a phone call, talk to that person, because it's very important um, to honor, everything that you feel. That person might experience regret, okay, for what they did, or remorse. If there is something that is fixable, it's never too late. It can be 5 minutes after it happened, and call that person and say, hey, I came to my senses. I realized I did a big mistake. Can I talk to you again? And negotiate in that space. If there is no regret and no remorse, then there is a problem. Okay. That person doesn't have a value system by which they coordinate their life. This is how I see it. So what they can do, again, apply self-reflection. I'm talking about those people who are experiencing the negative emotion of regret or remorse. I say negative because it's unpleasant in a way, and it can't let you sleep, whether it comes along with other friends like guilt and shame and all this. So it's good to do something about it, because it can feel good after you bring back that part of your life where you might have made a mistake. Yeah. And try the best you can to fix it. I personally, I had regrets for not, I felt that I could do more for my father, okay, at some point in his life. And I wonder, what could I do more? Could I do more? And yeah, the result was, yes, I could do more. I didn't do that. I didn't do this. But my father was gone, uh, dead. Okay, so I wrote a letter. It was the only thing that I could do, write a letter to a dead person, and say, I wish you were here, because if you were, and if I would have had the mind that I have now with this understanding, then I would have done this and maybe I could have helped. So that gives a sense of closure in a way,
And I feel as
It was
well.
funny. It was a funny thing then that I can't get rid of that thought. So I was by a river, and it was one of those picnic benches, with a table. And it was quite a nice place with trees. It was summer. Okay, so I wrote the letter. I kind of internalized it and I put my love into it. Okay. And then I broke the letter in pieces and I threw the paper in the water, in the river. Okay. And some ducks came from the bank of the river and they started to eat the paper, which was,
Wow.
I found quite amusing at the time. So we all have our personal way, I think, of dealing with these things, and it starts with paying attention to emotions and what are they trying to tell us.
And I think an important distinction is that values don't just live outside of you in the sense of the way you orientate your actions, but also how you treat yourself as well.
Mm-hmm.
If you
Yeah,
choose to have compassion as a value, that means you have to be compassionate towards yourself as well, I imagine, right?
yeah, of course. Um, a mother of a young teenager told me one day that her daughter will enroll in a scouts something at school, okay? And it was going for a semester. And that she has been asked to write a letter in which she needs to explain why she wants to be in that group, in that activity. And she said that she doesn't know. And I said, just send her to me, I'll make her a cup of tea. And I do have some cards with values on them. So I put them on the big table that I have here, and I have asked her to pick those cards, that represents values that are important to her. What is important to you? Okay. And she chose friendship, trust, collaboration, teamwork, all these things. She wouldn't go into big words such integrity, okay, because that's already a complex concept. And I also asked her what is that she doesn't. What was the other question? She had 3 categories of values. Those that are important, okay, that she would never compromise. So it's no negotiation, non-negotiable, okay. On the other end, or at the other end, values that she might negotiate, okay, that's it when it's a dilemma, whether ethical and moral. We still have values, but some of them can be, a little bit like, okay, I'm getting a little bit of this and a little bit of that. So they are negotiable. You have negotiable and non-negotiable, definitely. And some that are in the middle. And anyway, when I asked her, okay, so what are those values of yours that would be satisfied by you being part of this group? And she said, it's teamwork, it's friendship, it's physical activity, nature, all that. Okay, so based on that, she could write her, the letter to justify her need to be in the Scouts group. And I tell you that just that exercise that we did then, it helped her so much since. So that was about 3 years ago. And I could see her growing in such a beautiful human being. Her values have been always what guided her, in all her choices.
That's beautiful. And let's just get to maybe one that's people asking, like, what if my value is honesty? And then I get someone's, obviously these situations don't arise for everyone in everyday life, but let's say someone values honesty and it's a non-negotiable for them to always be honest and to always be clear and concise and in their language and various things like that. But then they get someone threatens them and puts them in a really bad position, saying, if you don't do this, I'm going to do that to you. Um, is that an ability to then break honesty and say, if I can get out of this, if I lie, I can get out of this situation. If it's a life-threatening situation or a really bad situation with a threat of something, would that then be non-negotiable, or what's the kind of context around that, in your opinion?
Yeah, so the context can make, can shift. I want to say, first of all, values are values, they are to some degree fluid. It doesn't mean that if today I choose according to my circumstances, again, according to the context in which I carry on with my life, my work, my friends, I do have this set of values, and I let myself being guided by them. I observe that I do that unconsciously. I don't need to consciously choose, But if the circumstances change, okay, then there is a shift in the priorities. Okay, so if you find yourself in the jungle, let's say, your first value would be safety. I need to, so you change their position on the list. But if you come across a situation like that, I'm just thinking, have I ever been in a situation like this? I've been in situations where I have been lied to, but okay, so safety. This is one of the primary needs that we humans have, to keep ourselves safe, where being honest doesn't really stand any longer. You do whatever it takes at the time to keep yourself safe. So this is my personal interpretation. I don't want to say this as a rule, but in front of safety, and I remember that I've been in a situation like this, where I didn't have to lie, but I had to do other things that didn't really sit well with me at the time. They were not who I am at all, but I really had to get out of that situation. Safety was the first thing, and I would say whatever, I would be told to say. Or if you are really, I don't know, if you feel that you can protect yourself, using force, let's say, and get out of that situation, and it would be appropriate, maybe you could do that. But you kind of assess the situation and think what is the best way, what is the best thing that I can do here, without too much compromise on my values, to get out alive or safe. Yeah.
Yeah, well, because it's interesting, right? So then wouldn't every value be a negotiable value predicated on the basic human needs of safety?
um
Because here's my thing, right? So this is my theory or assumption. It's that we become, I don't know if more moral is the right way to put it. We become moral individuals ethical individuals, well, it's easy to be that way when we don't have trauma or baggage or things that are in our past making us second guess our intuitions. Now, what I mean by this is if you have a very rough childhood where you're abused, where you're not treated like a decent human being, even to the point of not, affection and love and things like that, then not all the time, but it becomes a likelihood that you grow up with an emotional sensitivity or proclivity to have a distrust towards individuals. And from
Mm-hmm.
that distrust, behaviors are appropriated from a point of view of like, it's not even a conscious thing. It's like, I've been treated like this in the past. And because I've been treated like this in the past, I know for a fact, right, that people will feel this way, that if I don't lie, or if I don't deceive, or if I don't, do this, that I will be hurt in a major, major way. So my assumption is that the core of immorality and unethical behavior the roots can be found at the point of trauma or unprocessed emotional pain. I guess, what are your thoughts on that first and foremost?
Unprocessed emotional pain, and that is very important because processing emotional pain and making sense of everything that happened to you, or trying to see connections and everything, that might get you out of that river in which you are, that river of life, your life and the path that you chose. Again, coming back to self-reflection, that is such an important part of the growth, to grow, to self-reflect, to ask yourself the right questions. Why am I here? How can I, to be curious as well. Okay, curiosity, self-exploration in terms of understanding, your emotions. Why do I feel the way I feel? What is that I can do in order to feel different? Is there a way to give a different meaning to everything that I'm going through? And I say this because some people would just embrace the fact that whatever you are going through, as hard as it is, it's part of your growth, with the condition that you apply at some point self-reflection, okay, and move above the line in terms of, is that classification of below the line behavior, which
Mhm.
is basically thinking, and above the line. Below the line, you keep yourself blaming others for what happened to you, okay? And in that space, you are a victim. You
Yeah.
speak from the victim space, and there is no growth. Because if you continue in your life to find to blame others and to use that as an excuse for whatever behaviors you are having, you are still in that river, you know, going there, being led by the current, and this. But if you manage to get out and go above the line, okay, when you are not blaming others any longer, okay, and you just think of, wow, I've been through these very hard times, and I tell you that I've been through some really tough situations, okay. I don't know, one of them being the revolution, when our country, the country that I'm from, Romania, when we demolished the communism, I had bullets going above my head. I've been taken out of a train with a gun at my, I don't have words, the English words for this,
Back,
with
lower
a
back.
gun pointed, yeah,
Hmm.
pushed out of a train in a bombed station. It was half of the train station only, no roof, just ruins there. And didn't know, from people, by people whose language I did not understand. Okay, I was at the border of Yugoslavia at the time. I was going to Belgrade. Anyway, so you go through situations where, again, your safety is so important. But in order to grow out of these experiences, no matter what abuse you are experiencing, safety is important. okay, the moment you find yourself out of this context, it's when you start asking questions and become curious of how can I shift this thing around. Okay, what is the lesson that I have learned in this? What can I take with me from this story? And just rewrite the script in a different way. I'm not a victim any longer. Okay, now I'm a person who's taking responsibility and making different choices. I've learned in this space to value freedom in a way that other people didn't have the opportunity. For them, freedom is just a concept. Really? Freedom? What is that? Only people who at some point experienced a lack of it have a full understanding of that. And then again, yeah, keeping yourself safe, and once you are out is about asking the right questions that will take you out and above. Yeah,
Absolutely. And
and
I
all
feel
around is values. Yeah.
absolutely. And and you're speaking about freedom and living in a, a previously communist country. Is that where you learnt that value from?
Romania.
As in, like, is that where you learnt the value of freedom from? As in the lack of it?
Ah, not only. I think there are things coming from my childhood, where I didn't have where I experienced a lack of autonomy. Okay, so I've been raised by my auntie, not by my parents, and I think she was overprotective of me. So I suffered from a lack of autonomy. That was, in a way, it has to do with freedom. And of course, during the communism, growing up in the communism, it's only at a certain age when you realize that it constrains you and it's guiding you to think in a specific way. Freedom. And you have, with having an experience of it, you can better understand people who suffer from a lack of freedom, because there is an immediate emotional connection to that, and you develop compassion and empathy. I think we have a lot of time on our hands. Many people complain of they don't have time, but you can apply self-reflection in so many situations, that like waiting for the bus, driving, if you are on autopilot, still being, paying attention to where you're driving, but you can still think about these things. What's important? What was important? What is that you learn? And yeah, when I believe that we are actually our values, this is what you see in someone. Someone enters your door, whether in the office, or at home, you can tell who that person is based on their behavior. They are respectful, they are kind or not, they are, I don't know, they look authentic, they are authentic, because the more self-reflection you do, I think, the more you get to learn about yourself and other people. And the more intuitive you become, because you start picking up on things that are less evident, so things that other people are trying to hide, such as telling you lies, or you observe patterns. So self-reflection and understanding your values, what is guiding you through life, might be, at the essence of meaning and purpose, sort of.
Absolutely. So for individuals who they feel that stir inside them to be, walk the narrow path, so to speak, or to be more ethical, to be more moral, how would they go about that? What would be, I guess, if you're able to, like a step-by-step approach to doing that? Like one of them might be, writing out your values. Two might be, going to your past and seeing what you might do wrong. I'm just throwing ideas out there, but I guess if you could, just for everyone listening, I guess some ways to begin walking on that path of ethic and moral way of being.
There are some fundamental things to do that would lead to self-awareness. As a matter of fact, I do have a program which it's called Cultivating Meaningful Connections, and is grounded in nonviolent communication, in positive psychology and emotional intelligence. I would do more, but then the program would become so long, because I would add to it developing social intelligence and so on. But the program starts with some fundamentals, and the first one is intention. Okay, becoming aware of your intentions, whatever you want to do, whether you want to watch a movie, my intention is to relax. If I want to meet with a friend, my intention is to connect and maybe contribute. Okay. If I go to work and I work on a project, my intention is to stay focused and pay attention. Okay. So becoming aware or considering your intention makes a difference. There are two intentions that I suggest to people, because it's, there can be so many, but in my course, I talk about these two intentions: intention to connect and intention to contribute. So when you, for example, let's say you are a parent and you have, you are not having a very good relationship with your teenager. Okay, and you feel that there are walls in between the two of you. Okay, it is so important before you open your mouth and say something to stop for a moment and think of that intention to connect. My intention is to connect. Whether that is going to be successful or not right then and there, because you don't know in what space the other person is, at least you are satisfied that, the intention was to connect. And to connect with that person, connect with my own kindness and heart and understanding, okay, and compassion, then to contribute. The next step would be attention. Intention, attention. So what do I pay attention to? What do I focus on? And here is the values that are coming into play, as well as the intention. The values are coming along very subtly, and people start appreciating them more. I do not have a class that would teach values, but we go through these fundamentals of I don't know, things that make our lives. Basically, we do not live alone, and even then we connect with ourselves, we contribute to our lives. But when we live in communities, intention to connect and contribute, they are so important, and you start learning values. Attention, what you pay attention to. Okay, that is what you feed to your mind. Okay, empowering things or disempowering things. So you start developing an appreciation for other type of values. You value health, you value clear communication or things like that. Then we have another element, observation. Now, how we observe the world around us, because in order to make decisions, whether they are ethical, moral, or simple choices, you need to collect data. Okay, and we've learned, unfortunately, I don't know where this came from, with the presence of media. I think not only what's happening now, but in the past with magazines that were newspaper, television, radio, we've learned to judge a lot, to criticize and to label. So we put in our heads distorted information. So that information is of no quality for making an informed decision. Do you know what I mean?
I do.
You need to collect data as is. It's raining. That is data. If you say it's a miserable day, that is already an opinion. And such opinions, I don't know, can fall in your heart like bricks because they have an energy. You say it's miserable, boom, you know. So is intention, attention, observation. So how do you observe the world around you? Then developing a vocabulary of feelings and developing a vocabulary of needs. So these are fundamental things. This is what I believe, okay, with all the studies that I did in the past and all the experiences that I had. I feel I collected things in a way that I believe they are very useful and they make sense. It's a logical way of putting things in a way that a person has a reboot of their emotional system, of their values system and beliefs, things that are coming from the past and they have never been questioned. So it's a slow process. You can think of them as our settings, you know, and that brings in awareness and fine-tuning little things in your life to the point where you can become more aware of your values, of who you are, how you carry yourself through the challenges in life, in your relationships, and so on.
And for that program, I'll put it in the description below for everyone that wants to check it out and to visit it. You have a link for it on your site, do you?
Yes, I do.
Lovely.
Have a link.
Awesome. And I
Thank
guess
you.
final thoughts and reflections, or anything you'd like to add?
Yes. The fact that life can take us by surprise sometimes. Okay. As much as we want to go through life, you know, with our heads up and knowing that we did the right thing always, some things can happen, you know, someone in your family or someone of your close friends, or it's disappointing you, it's challenging you, or they did something so bad, you know, that you're confronted to with making a moral decision. In order to be prepared, it's so important to know who you are, what you're made of, what are your values, because they would become your guide then and there on the spot. There is also always, so when we are confronted to something that is totally unexpected, as you know, is the shocking space in which we find ourselves when our critical thinking is override by emotions. That's why it's so good to develop this vocabulary of emotion, to understand what does that mean. You know, I feel angry, I feel ashamed, I feel happy and content and joyful. You know, what's happening in my life that I feel this way? Okay, and then think of your values. Because your values, if you think, okay, these are the values that are in my life and I will never ever negotiate them. So there are some non-negotiable. We talked about the special circumstances. But when you have, for example, integrity, compassion, commitment, truth, no matter what, resilience, authenticity as values, okay, they become your guide. Your guide in everything that you do in life. They become your friends, your best friends, you know, and then your emotions will learn about this, and they will inform you precisely if any of these precious values of yours have been challenged. You feel it immediately and you know what that means. So developing this self-awareness is very important, so to become more prepared, you know, for things that can take you by surprise in life. So you know how to act, you know what to say, what to do or not to do, or to say or not to say.
That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing, and thank you for joining. I appreciate having you on.
Thank you, Luke. This was wonderful.
Thank you for watching this episode of the Getting Mental podcast. If you like this episode, then you'll love this one here and this one here. Check them out.